I'm John McKee, editor of Messianic Apologetics. Messianicapologetics.net. And I would like to welcome you to this episode of Messianic Insider, your theology and news roundup for July the 21st, 2025. Certainly, there has been a great deal which has occurred in the news cycle since we concluded on Friday afternoon. We have a lot of news to get caught up on. There are a lot of unanswered questions about what's going on, how should we as believers be approaching different things, and how many people within the Messianic sphere of influence need some proper guidance. So that's what we're going to be talking about today a little bit in our theology roundup going into our news roundup. Okay, so before we get started, I would encourage you to please go to Messianicapologetics.net. Here in the right-hand column, you see blog notifications. Be automatically notified by email when Messianic Apologetics is updated. So you can put your email in there, hit subscribe. You'll be asked to confirm your subscription as we add new things to our website or reintroduce things from our archives. You should receive an automatic notification. And this is notably different from our email announcement list, which you can subscribe to by clicking on the envelope icon at the top. Those are updates we have to specifically put together. All right, so our theology roundup. Yesterday, as I was sorting through our list of topics going back before Messiah 2025, Lord, what should we talk about on Monday? Because there's a lot of things in the news we're going to have to go through, and people are seeking answers, etc. And I was just kind of gently prodded. Why don't you talk about staying grounded for the longer term? This upcoming fall, our family will have been involved in the Messianic movement for 30 years, 3 decades. And that is really hard to swallow sometimes because we have seen and encountered and experienced a lot. And a lot of what we have had to experience and a lot of what we've had to witness involves different people, different groups making false end-time predictions and prognostications. I think everyone in their Messianic experience is going to go through a time when they have to weather the storm of false end-time predictions and prognostications. So when we were coming into the Messianic community, 1995, 1996, of course, you just seen the Middle East Peace Accord in 1993, Bill Clinton, Yitzhak Rabin, Yasser Arafat. You had the upcoming turn of the millennium, the year 2000, Y2K. Huge amount of end-time speculation and prognostication. And you're coming off of this dispensational, pre-tribulation, rapture culture going back to the 1970s and 1980s, spearheaded by things like The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey. You had people like Hal Lindsey, Jack Van Impe, John Hagee, even various others who practiced a lot of newspaper eschatology, reading current events into the Holy Scriptures. And while they would not be seen to have made any hard and fast predictions or prognostications regarding the last days, they were definitely prone to make a lot of soft predictions. And even people we would encounter in the Messianic community who had dismissed with the pre-tribulation rapture, they were still seen to do a lot of number crunching, especially as it involved the so-called biblical year 6000, leading up to the turn of the millennium. While they may have been more post-trib in their eschatology, they still couldn't help a lot of the soft, even hard predictions of the last days. And that culture continued after the turn of the millennium into the 2000 aughts, into the 2010s. I've spoken about this before. And for a lot of Messianic people, their involvement in this faith community is all tied up with the second coming. It's tied up with dramatic events in Israel. It's tied up with a lot of people wanting to be the proverbial man or even woman of insight who has the inside information about when the Lord is going to return. Now, being part of the Messianic community is important. Who we are is tied up in the warp and woof of the last days. I don't deny that. But what happened, I think, regarding all this prophecy paranoia, newspaper eschatology, is that there were a lot of issues, a lot of theological issues, a lot of contemporary matters which just kind of were shuffled off by the wayside. And it did deter our theological development, our spiritual development. And indeed, if you believe that you could possibly be alive at the time of the Lord's return, then your mission should be to see that no one perish, no one experience a Messiahless eternity. And how much do you have to be equipped regarding the issues and matters of the day, criticisms against the Holy Scriptures, criticisms against the very existence of God? And yet, how strong are we as today's Messianic community in a lot of those areas? Even now in 2025, not as strong as we should be. We still are going to have to sort through a lot of the negative impact of fundamentalism and some of the things which the baby boomers have left us with, which are not always great. So how do we stay grounded for the longer term? Because, look, I believe we're getting closer to Yeshua's return. There are a lot of things taking place in Israel, the Middle East, elsewhere, which point in that direction. But we've got to learn the mistakes of those who preceded us. We've got to learn that you can't just go, well, this could be the day or this could be the year. You have to have a longer term approach. And you also have to recognize, and I think this is the biggest thing people have to make the shift on. Many people think that the last days, the end times, it's all about the beast. It's all about the anti-Messiah. It's all about the false prophet. It's all about these intense judgments upon the world of sinners. Yet, actually, the end times are about what? Heralding the return of the King. The question of the apostles, Acts 1:6, Lord, is it at this time you are restoring the kingdom to Israel? That's our focus. Romans 9:10 and 11, the salvation of the Jewish people, the restoration of the kingdom, what all Israel will be saved involves. That doesn't just involve a massive salvation of Jewish people coming to Yeshua. It involves the consummation of the age. And how do we learn from some of the mistakes of those who preceded us, stay grounded when we see things like what took place a number of weeks ago, the 12-day war, as it's now being called? How do we stay grounded, have a big picture view? And yes, we got to pay attention to what's happening. One of the things which can upset me from time to time is when people, I don't know what you do at your local congregation. Congregations vary across the spectrum and situations vary from time and place. But there are people out there, Lord, we pray for the salvation of Israel and the Jewish people, and then they don't talk about what's happening. So we need to stay plugged into what's happening, but we have to have a much big picture view. One of the things which I think we can lack as humans although we believe as those who have placed our trust in Yeshua, we're being conformed to Yeshua's image. Hebrews chapter 1 says some very important things about who Yeshua is, upholding the universe by the word of his power. If Yeshua is presently upholding the universe and we're being conformed to his image, then doesn't it at least behoove us, at least in part, to pray to the Lord that he give us the ability to see creation, various facets of being, dimensions of existence from his perspective, at least in part. And if we can do that, then not only will we be granted a big picture view of what he's doing in human history, but we can stay grounded and we can stay patient, and we can learn from the mistakes of those who preceded us with a lot of their newspaper eschatology. And this is something which it can be a process for some people. There's some people who do go tit for tat with the news every day. There are others who are much more calm. They're looking at things to play out. They know that you can hear one thing one day and another thing another day. We're going to be able to detect some of that by what's taken place over the past few days. How do we stay grounded? And I believe the key is pray to the Lord, seek him, ask him to give you the ability to, how can I see the world the way you see the world? How can I see time the way you see time? Lord, I am mortal. I have human limitations, but I'm being conformed to your image. Can I at least be able to see some of this in part based on what I need for what is happening today? I don't think we do that enough as God's people. I think we are even a little afraid or concerned sometimes when we want to know what is happening, and the Lord may give us a different answer than what we have expected. Yet, as we enter into the future, having the ability to, and this is something which has been impressed upon me over the past few years, having the ability to be able to, really just connect to God and say, I'm seeing a situation in the world and I need an answer. Should I be concerned about this, or should I just move on? Or should I file this away and see what happens? When we talk about, as God's people, and I'll close with this point, the spiritual gifts, a lot of attention is given to all these dramatic spiritual gifts, things like speaking in tongues, dramatic healings, signs and wonders. And yeah, the charismatic movement's got a lot to answer for. But we don't see enough attention given to how, Lord, how do I ask you specific questions about what's going on in my life, circumstances in the world, and how do I discern what the right course of action is, what is actually taking place, what I need to know in order to make the right decision? How do I look at this circumstance in the Middle East, this circumstance here at home in America, whatever it is? We don't focus enough on that. And I think as we enter into the future, we're going to have to do that more and more. So those are some thoughts about how we can stay grounded over the longer term. We have to have a longer term approach. We have to have patience and forbearance. And we can't be afraid of the day-to-day things. We have to look at the larger term perspective that the Lord has. This won't be the last time we talk about this, but based on some of the headlines we're going to be going through, and there are many, I thought it was important to bring this up. All right, so let's begin with our news roundup. We do the news roundup after the theology roundup because it's all time sensitive, and news can change from day to day, as we will definitely see. There are definitely hot spots in the Middle East. We've got things which are taking place here on the American home front, which a lot of people are asking questions about. And of course, what's happening in the year 2025? What changes are taking place in our society we need to take note of, and how do they affect us as believers and even as Messianic people? Now, all the links I'm about to go through, you will be able to access later today when this episode is archived at messianicapologetics.net. You can go read the articles, watch the different analyses, etc. All right, so we start out from a post which came across my social media feed Friday afternoon after we concluded. This is from Awesome Jew, but this is something which you can find other places as well. Just in, the House overwhelmingly rejected Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment to cut $500 million in U.S. military aid to Israel, including funding for the Iron Dome, with over 200 Republicans and Democrats voting against the proposal. You know, I don't really care for Marjorie Taylor Greene that much. I do think she, among some others, gets involved in some of the anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. But it does highlight an important point. One of these days, whether it is either the U.S. turning on Israel or because the U.S. doesn't need to be giving money to Israel anymore because of the, we'll just call it quote-unquote peace or quote-unquote tranquil circumstances in the Middle East, one day the U.S. isn't going to give military aid to the state of Israel. If it is the latter, that there's a period of peace and tranquility in the Middle East, then it is directly tied, or at least indirectly tied, to the end time scenario. But one day, and I don't want to make any predictions, U.S. aid to Israel will conclude. And it might very well be tied to some kind of a new, quote-unquote, peaceful Middle East. Just something to think about. All right, so the big news story, of course, from Friday through the weekend, and it continues to unfold, is the whole issue regarding Russiagate, former President Barack Obama, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, all of these kinds of things. This is from Fox News. This is not the only source which, of course, has picked this up. From July the 18th, Obama admin manufactured, quote unquote, intelligence to create 2016 Russian election interference narrative, documents show. There was a treasonous conspiracy in 2016 committed by officials at the highest level of our government, Gabbard said. That's from Tulsi Gabbard, who's the director of national intelligence. So this is an unfolding story. This is by far, I would say, much bigger than the whole Epstein question mark. That's my opinion, but a lot of people would conclude that. We don't know what's going to come from this. We know this is serious, and we know we have to keep up to speed on this. Now, what this means more than anything else, regardless of what happens or what doesn't happen, is people's trust in the government is going to drop. People's trust in our elected officials, whomever they may be, is going to drop. Have a big picture approach. Will it damage American prestige on the international stage? Probably. But this is something which is unfolding. It's a very hot news story. We don't know all the details of what's going to come, but stay aware of this. All right, so from Charisma News, July the 18th. This isn't the only time Charisma has tried to jump on board with this, but you remember last week when Israel bombed the Syrian Ministry of Defense in Damascus, there was actually a Syrian newscaster who, it happened live on TV. Israel bombs Damascus, raising alarms over biblical prophecy and end times unrest. This is the kind of newspaper eschatology, I'm sorry, we have to watch out for. There are questions involving Isaiah chapter 17 and Damascus. Yes, we've got to be paying attention, but how much are things like this contributing to fear, paranoia, not having a big picture view, simply because Israel bombs a government building in Damascus doesn't automatically mean Isaiah 17 is in immediate view. And so a lot of this is, of course, for clickbait. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. Yes, we got to be paying attention to the Middle East, but let's be responsible. See, according to Isaiah 17, a time will come when Damascus will cease to be a city and become a heap of ruins. So a lot of prophecy people associate that with an Israeli nuclear strike in the future. It's even been in a number of prophecy novels. And this concludes, additionally, the conflict risks drawing in major regional powers that are already entrenched in Syria. Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39 describe a future war involving a coalition of nations. Again, we have to pay attention to this. There's no question. But we also have to stay grounded, and we have to be looking at the long term. Syria is a mess right now, especially given the recent situation with the Druze and what that is going to entail. You know, we saw Bashar al-Assad. He was removed from power. Now we have al-Jalani, I believe his name is, if I got it right. Is there going to be another change? We don't know. And it's okay to say we don't know. All right, the New York Post, 18th of July. New York City Socialist Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani is being ripped for advocating the abolition of private property, as a video resurfaced of him touting the radical position this week. People try to play gotcha games about these kinds of things. Look, I care more about whether somebody has a home. Okay, there are a lot of question marks about the upcoming New York City mayoral election. Of course, some of his remarks about Israel, the post-October 7, 2023 situation, very concerning. Also, some of his economic positions, also very concerning. Are we going to see a lot of businesses move out of New York because of the stance he takes? Are we going to see a lot of people move out of New York, whether they're Jewish or otherwise, to places like Florida, even Texas? We wait and see. This came across my social media feed. I thought this was interesting. Here's how Jewish populations look today. And you got Israel with around 7.2 million Jews. The USA with around 6 million, mainly in places like New York City, LA, Miami. France with 440,000. Canada with around 400,000. United Kingdom with around 270,000. And kind of goes on down from there. What we are likely to see in the days to come is all of these other numbers go down, and of course the number of Jews in Israel go up. But this also highlights something which I think a lot of people, a lot of readers of the New Testament, the apostolic scriptures, don't often remember. While the bulk of by a huge bulk of the first century Jewish community was in Judea, the Roman province, the land of Israel, there was a huge diaspora Jewish population as well. And so for people like the Apostle Paul, others going out into the Mediterranean to declare the good news, it really was to the Jew first. There were already little outposts in the major metropolitan centers with synagogues, which had a group of, yes, diaspora Jews, but also Greek and Roman God-fearers who had already recognized the one God of Israel, had already been sufficiently familiar with the scriptures of Israel, and voluntarily taken on different aspects of the Torah, like the Sabbath or kosher eating, things like that. So even though we all believe as Messianics that there's going to be a massive return of Jewish people to the land of Israel in the last days, I would not expect it down to the last man. There's still going to be a Jewish population out in the diaspora in the days leading up to Yeshua's return. But as it has been frequently observed, and I think rightfully so, if you are a young Jewish person, if you're a young Messianic Jew, you need to be considering the possibility of making Aliyah sometime in the future. And of course, that is something which depends on each person's individual life circumstances. But I would not expect at all the main hub of the Messianic community to remain in North America. Sooner or later, it is going to have to shift to the land of Israel. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the coming decades. All right. Yeah. Last week on Friday, we discussed this little spat that the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, had regarding visas, different Christian groups from America wanting to visit Israel. Here you see Matt Gaetz, the former representative from Florida. Send us money, send us weapons. Keep your Christian tour groups at home. Before going live, I did see that this is something which apparently did get resolved. We'll discuss that story starting tomorrow. But a lot of people getting upset about this. I wasn't that concerned. Disagreements or misunderstandings happen between the United States and the modern state of Israel all the time. It doesn't mean that things are getting ready to collapse in terms of the relationship. All right, this is somewhat interesting from the Instagram channel Elixir of Science. Whether this is accurate or not, we'll just have to wait and see. By 2030, artificial intelligence combined with quantum computing will be capable of diagnosing and curing various forms of cancer in under a week. This unprecedented convergence of quantum computational power and artificial general intelligence, AGI, is redefining the future of precision medicine. So, are we going to see sometime in the future AI be able to diagnose somebody with cancer, somebody with a debilitating disease, and then within a week be able to formulate, based on their DNA, based on analysis of different factors, some kind of a treatment which can offer a cure? Hey, I don't know. I mean, this is, I know a lot of people like to connect these things to, this is related to the mark of the beast. Mark of the beast has to deal with commerce. This is something which I would tie into more while they're saying peace and safety, what Paul communicated to the Thessalonians. Peace and safety, or peace and security, yes, a lot of it can involve absence of war, absence of conflict, but also economics. Also, well, all of these diseases have been cured. All of these illnesses have been cured. And in no small part due to technology. These are the kinds of factors we are going to have to consider contributing to that. All right, from the post-millennial, the Epstein issue has not gone away. This is from July the 18th. Pam Bondi asks federal court to unseal Epstein grand jury transcripts. Transparency to the American public is of the utmost importance to this administration. Now, I think the whole Russiagate issue is far more serious than this, but what's going to come of the whole Epstein issue? It's an ongoing question, certainly because of things which have been said by the president, Attorney General Bondi. People are asking questions. I don't know, based on some of the conversations I've had with a number of friends, people are that confident that anything's going to come from this, but we never know. What we do know is that where there's smoke, there's fire, and that if some of the question marks surrounding this, the client list, all that, are accurate, or there's things in them which can make people look really bad, then once again, people's confidence in the government, industry, entertainment, sports, all sorts of different fields is going to plummet. Who can I trust? Who can I rely on? The God of the universe. That's who you can rely on. All right, another thing from Instagram, which came across my feed from the channel Future Tech. This was interesting. Scientists are proposing a bold plan to preserve Earth's biodiversity, storing living cell samples of at-risk species in a secure biorepository on the moon. All right, so right now, of course, we just commemorated the landing by Armstrong, Aldrin, Apollo 11 on the moon. I saw some of the social media posts by Buzz Aldrin. In the coming years, are we going to see a more or less permanent human presence on the moon with some kind of a base where there are doubtlessly going to be scientific experiments, observations of the greater universe taking place, and with it, things like this? Of course, what is the headline? Scientists propose fortress of Earth's DNA samples housed on the moon in case of apocalypse. So, yeah, that's something that's kind of interesting because we're talking about the end times, and one of the, whether you are a believer or not believer, if you believe that some kind of or you think that some kind of a massive crunch of some kind is inevitable, why have all your eggs in one basket called planet Earth? Why not put people on the moon, put people on Mars, have them take DNA samples with them, have them take elements of human civilization just in case? From Speaker Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. This was from Friday afternoon. Dismantling the deep state. New evidence from DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Gabbard, confirms what we've long known. The Russia hoax was a political hit job manufactured by Obama officials and weaponized by intel agencies to take down President Trump. Accountability is long overdue. So you have someone at his level. Remember, those of you who are not American, he is number 3 in line after you've got the president, then you have the vice president and the Speaker of the House. He's number 3 in the line of succession. So making this kind of a statement is pretty bold on his behalf. From Open Source Intel, this is from July the 18th, 6:58 p.m., so early evening. Breaking, President Trump announces 10 more hostages will be released very soon from Gaza. We've gotten back most of the hostages. We hope to finish it quickly. He credited his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, for leading the negotiations. As to my knowledge, nothing else has happened since this. All right, this is from Sean Hannity. Tulsi Gabbard was interviewed by him on Friday evening on his show. You can watch this clip. Tulsi Gabbard says accountability is coming. So this is the story I think a lot of people really need to be paying attention to. I know I am. So back to more astronomy, science. I do pay attention to astronomy, scientific things like this. People wonder, why do we have a space program? Why do we look beyond planet Earth? So this is from the Instagram channel Wealthy Pot, actually posted 6 days ago. Hurtling through space is an asteroid which we reckon is packed so chock full of precious metals that it would be worth $10 quintillion, which in numerical form, and then it writes out it all with zeros, or about 8,000 quintillion quid. That would be British pounds. That sounds pretty neat, doesn't it? Such a vast array of wealth would be enough to turn everyone on the planet into a billionaire. Yeah, that's why we go out into space, to find asteroids with so much gold on them that every person on Earth can become a billionaire. Indeed, what are we going to find once we have a permanent presence on the moon, permanent presence on Mars? Are you going to be able to find some valley where you see, and I'm just speculating, I'm not saying this is serious, but you're able to find, say, potato-sized lumps of platinum, among others. Who knows? But one of the things which is going to get a lot of people to go to the moon, go to Mars, just like a lot of people here in North America wanted to go out west, is so they can get rich on these kinds of things. And indeed, if the Lord indeed tarries over the next 20 to 50 years, we're going to see a human presence elsewhere in the solar system. Moon, Mars, possibly even into the asteroid field. Okay, this is a story that certainly got a lot of people stirred up. This is from the 19th of July. On 17th July, this is the report, an Israeli tank shell struck the Holy Family Catholic Church in Gaza City, killing 3 civilians and injuring several others, including the parish priest, Father Gabriel Romanelli. This church is the only Catholic parish in Gaza and had been sheltering elderly people, children, and families since the war began in 2023. And there are a lot of Catholic voices, including some remarks from the Pope, who expressed significant displeasure in the Israeli government. Some people think Israel did this on purpose. Others think it was a mistake. It was an accident. You can see a number of the other images from this right here. That's Cardinal Pizzabella, who was in the running among possible candidates for Pope. Of course, it fell to Robert Prevost instead. But yeah, some people think this was done on purpose by the Israeli government. Others thought it was by accident. It does highlight, though, some of the international pressures which are going to, of course, have to be reckoned with for this conflict. And how much longer can this thing just continue? Yeah, I hope that we all know that the Israeli government is under a lot of pressure to conclude this situation in Gaza. Okay, so back to the universe. I thought this was interesting from the Instagram channel. It's Cosmo Knowledge. Earth may be located inside a huge cosmic void. So it would actually be the Milky Way galaxy. But here, you would see basically the Milky Way galaxy surrounded by a 1 billion light year cosmic void or so. Of course, are these apparent discoveries, are these the kinds of things which can be questioned? Are these the kinds of things which can be disregarded or more likely changed with more observational science? Yes, of course. But here you basically have our galaxy surrounded by a possible 1 billion or so light year void. I know I'm going off into the realm of speculation, but that causes me to ask, or at least wonder about some matters as they concern the second coming of the Lord. When Yeshua finally returns from heaven, is he going to enter our universe from the extreme edge of the universe? Is he going to enter our universe through, like, possibly this cosmic void, or is he just going to show up outside of our planet Earth and then be visible to everyone, which of course also involves different supernatural elements as well? Well, we'll have to wait and find out when we get there. But the universe is vast. There are a lot of questions we don't have, and probably we don't consider them as frequently as we should. From Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. This is July the 19th, so this was from Saturday. The U.S. has remained heavily involved over the last 3 days with Israel, Jordan, and authorities in Damascus on the horrifying and dangerous developments in southern Syria. This involves the massacre of the different Druze groups, and that's why Israel bombed the Syrian Ministry of Defense, and why there are a lot of question marks now surrounding the Syrian government. Okay, this isn't the only news source which has picked it up, but I thought it was notable. Charlie Kirk did, others have now. In-N-Out president Lindsay Snyder is leaving California and moving to Tennessee along with most of her corporate employees. Now, for a long time, In-N-Out Burger was just constrained to California and then the West Coast, so it was kind of this novelty. You know, famous pictures of aircraft landing at LAX, flying over the In-N-Out, and once passengers got their bags at LAX, they'd go and they'd have an In-N-Out burger. in more recent years, In-N-Out has been expanding more eastward, certainly Pacific Northwest, places like Arizona. When we moved back to North Texas in 2012, 2013, In-N-Out was here. And In-N-Out Burger, I've done food reviews in the past, is a place I do like to go eat once in a while and order the double animal style and animal style fries from the secret menu. But In-N-Out, which of course is a Christian company founded in California here, their corporate employees, I wouldn't say their headquarters, but a lot of their corporate staff, they're moving to Tennessee. So In-N-Out's moving to Tennessee. Raising a family is not easy here, and doing business is not easy here. California used to be America's greatest state. Now Americans can't leave fast enough. That's really sad. And we know we got people in California who follow our ministry, and they're aware of some of the challenges of California as well. There's a huge Messianic Jewish community in the state of California. California has been a part of the Messianic experience for a long time, but this is sad. Now, the people of Tennessee are going to benefit because they're going to get In-N-Out Burger. But what does this signify? Is California going to be able to get better? Is it going to get worse? Of course, I think overall, a lot of places are not getting better. We're just seeing a stalling, if you would, of societal degradation. We're not here to just discuss matters in Israel and the Middle East. We've got to take into consideration changing factors in society, changing factors even in commerce like this. From Visegrad 24, this is from July the 19th. This is from Saturday morning. The West has only a year and a half to prepare for war with Russia and China. General Alexius Grinkovich, commander of NATO's joint forces in Europe, said that Moscow and Beijing could strike simultaneously. Russia would attack Europe and China would attack Taiwan. According to his assessment, this could happen as early as 2027. Now, will that happen? Will it not happen? What we do know is that this is not something we want to see take place. NATO going to war with Russia and China. And is there any specific prophetic significance to that? Or could it just be wars, or hopefully, God willing, rumors of wars? Some of you have seen different forms of this report circulate on social media. So I thought I would pass this along. I saw a number of reports on this when we were at Messiah 2025. Again, we're just filing this away as information. We have discussed in theological detail the issue of the Genesis 6 Nephilim. This is from the Instagram channel Strange Paradigms. Congressman Eric Burleson reveals explosive information about government knowledge of extraterrestrial life. In a recent interview with Tim Pool, Burleson disclosed that Eric Davis, a longtime intelligence community researcher, that's not Eric Davis, the outfielder from the Cincinnati Reds, as I remember. Eric Davis, long-term intelligence community researcher who has worked for both the Pentagon and CIA in investigating retrieved crash material, told him something shocking. Okay. He was saying definitively, they know of 4 alien species: the Greys, the Nordics, the insectoids, and the reptilians that are commonly referred to in the UFO community, Burleson stated. Davis, who has been involved in intelligence work since the 1980s and previously worked for Bigelow Aerospace, reportedly described these classifications with certainty, though he didn't claim personal encounters. Okay, so in the whole alien UFO, you can call it conspiracy theory or not, they're frequently classified to be 4 major alien species which have interacted with humanity in more recent history. And you'll see this probably a lot more frequently. The Greys, those are typically the kind of gray, nude alien you see with the teardrop face and the little slit eyes. The Nordics, those would be those who basically look like they're from Northern Europe. Really blonde hair, platinum blonde hair, really blue, almost cobalt blue eyes. They can blend in with a lot of humans. The insectoids, so some kind of praying mantis type of alien species, and the reptilians. So some of you all may remember from the early 1980s the television show V. Remember V? Reptilians, right? Although on V they wore rubber masks to look like they were humans. They were called the Visitors. Hey, just file this away. I don't know how accurate or how inaccurate some of it is, but this will probably not be the last time I run across something, the 4 alien species which have apparently interacted with humans. And of course, people, they're the Genesis 6 Nephilim, or they're demons passing as aliens. Others have doubtlessly concluded maybe God's got more going on in this universe. Just file this away and be aware of it. Okay, back to the whole Russiagate issue. This is passed on from Benny Johnson, July the 20th, yesterday. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, interviewed by Maria Bartiromo on Fox News. DNI Tulsi Gabbard to release more files next week on the Obama-era plot against Trump. Next week is now. Next week, we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place. So we should expect more discussions to occur. Here's something which came across my feed on Instagram over the weekend. NVIDIA CEO says he has plans to either change or eliminate every single person's job with AI. Okay, so NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang has warned that artificial intelligence, AI, will impact every job, potentially changing or eliminating them while driving unprecedented productivity. Now, a lot of people, and I have been asked about this from time to time, how should we approach artificial intelligence, AI? When this episode is over, a part of our service will break up this into different shorts, which then get reposted to mainly YouTube and Instagram. And that's done by AI. But I really don't use AI. We still edit our books the old-fashioned way. That's why there are spelling errors in them. Yes, that's definitely human. I know a lot of people are concerned about AI because of lack of privacy. They are spying on me. They know everything I do. But more practically, what a lot of people should be concerned regarding AI involves their job, their livelihood. Can your job that you presently have be done by a computer? That's really the question which should concern all of us. I don't believe you can have an AI Bible teacher or an AI pastor. But there are other jobs, teachers, doctors even, nurses. Can they be replaced with AI? And would an AI-based system have the same kind of intuition, the same kind of human care, the same kind of compassion as an actual man or woman? So those are the kinds of things we should be more concerned about. Computers mainly look at numbers. Humans, yes, there are things where we have to decide based on numbers, based on those kinds of factors. But humans, those who have real heart beating in their chest, blood pumping through their veins, we act differently than computers do. Okay, we've got 5 more stories to go through. This is something which went all over social media yesterday. This is from Leading Report. A lot of the conservative pundits picked it up and passed it on. This is obviously an AI-generated video, but it was originally posted by President Trump President Trump posts video showing President Obama getting arrested. Now, we know that President Trump is a troller on social media. He will post things in order to get a reaction, to get a response. Why would he do something like this? That's what a lot of people are wondering. And indeed, that's why this whole Russiagate question is, I think, a lot bigger than the whole Epstein. Why would you have somebody at that high a level, the president himself, post something like this? From open source intel, this is from today, July the 24th, U.S. Special Envoy Barak, the Syrian government must be held accountable for the violence against the Druze in Sawaida. Apologies if I mispronounced that. But yeah, there's this whole issue with the Druze being attacked by Islamic extremists in southern Syria. Israel has come to their defense. What are we going to do about the Syrian government? Along with that, from open source intel, also today, this morning, July the 21st, Syrian regime forces have slaughtered an American citizen and his entire Druze family in Sawaida. Hossam Saraya, a U.S. national from Oklahoma and graduate of Oklahoma Christian University, was executed along with his father, brother, uncles, and cousins in a brutal assault by Assad's forces. Okay, we're just repeating this. But yeah, these are the kinds of things which should be concerning us regarding the Druze in southern Syria. From Visegrad 24, in his speech to the nation, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, I'm sorry, I did get that. I said it was Yolani earlier. This is who I meant. Squarely put the blame on the Druze community and praised the Bedouin tribes as national heroes. Israel came to the defense of the Druze, fearing a massacre on an even larger scale than the October 7th massacre. Okay, so I know a lot of people have wondered, with this Druze situation, with what's happened in southern Syria, where are all of the left-wing progressives? Why aren't they out protesting, save the Druze? Why aren't they out, petitioning different governments, different NGOs to, hey, we got to do something about this? Why are they broadly silent? When at the same time, a lot of the same are pushing free Palestine, Israel's committing genocide, and all of this. I even saw one post with, guess who is silent this time? And of course, it was a post of the president of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins, who has been a really strong critic of Netanyahu and of the Israeli government. Broad silence even from him. So a lot of people have used this Druze situation to demonstrate, well, there are no equal weights and measures in the world today regarding which groups need left-wing protests and which groups don't, among other things. Likely some hypocrisy there. All right, and this was the last news story I picked up before we went live. This is from Fox News on X, formerly Twitter. Breaking news, Tulsi Gabbard just handed Donald Trump's Justice Department the receipts to launch a criminal investigation on bombshell claims Barack Obama's administration manufactured the Russian collusion hoax. Yeah, so this is a huge story. And even President Trump posting that AI video of Obama going to jail. Hey, the big casualty in all of this, and I think this is where we need to be realistic and grounded as believers. The big casualty in this is the trust and confidence people, whether they are religious, men and women of faith or not, have in their government, have in their elected officials, and have in those in authority over them. The Holy Scriptures admonish us to pray for those in authority over us, but they are ultimately powers and principalities of the present age. Because our ultimate hope, our ultimate confidence is in the one God of the universe and in his Son, Yeshua, Jesus, who, when he returns, is going to right all of the wrongs of this planet. Okay, so we did cover a lot of news today. Tomorrow, I am planning for us to have more of a detailed theology roundup, but there was a lot which happened over the weekend, and you need to be aware of it. And it's something which I believe should draw us into significant prayer and for the Lord to show us direction, the Lord to protect each and every one of us, regardless of our circumstances. Sometimes protection comes in the form of make sure I don't lose my job because I might be rendered obsolete by AI. Those are things we're now just having to consider. So a lot's happening, and we have every reason to cry out to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords for his sovereign will to prevail. As always, on behalf of Outreach Israel Ministries and Messianic Apologetics, I would like to sincerely thank you for your ongoing prayers, encouragement, and donations toward all of our ministry efforts. You can give online at outreachisrael.net/support. We'll see you again tomorrow with another episode of Messianic Insider. Until then, may God bless you, shalom, and take care.